So what if I told you that some of the biggest YouTubers out there didn't just go viral? They came dangerously close to actually breaking the law. I mean, in some of these cases, if just one tiny little detail had been different, they could be facing serious criminal charges right now. Today, we're going to break down the wildest moments where these creators crossed major legal lines and, more importantly, explain the key detail that kept them out of jail.
It's the big question, right? You see these insane stunts. We're talking fake arrests, elaborate break-ins, literal explosions. And you have to wonder, how on earth is this legal? Well, the answer, as you'll see, is often hiding in a single legal detail that makes all the difference between a viral video and a felony conviction. Let's start with a situation that looked, for all intents and purposes, 100% real. Okay, so picture this. IShowSpeed is just driving along, doing his thing, streaming live to his fans, when all of a sudden, red and blue lights flash up in his rearview mirror. He pulls over, totally confused. A couple of officers walk up to his car and tell him something that would make anyone's heart stop. There's a warrant out for his arrest. And just like that, moments later, he's out of the car, hands behind his back, and they're putting him in handcuffs. You can just feel the tension, the fear, the genuine confusion on his face. It all feels incredibly real. He then gets put in a police car and taken to what absolutely looks like a real jail. You hear doors slamming, other inmates yelling. The whole situation has just gone from 0 to 100. The cell door clangs shut behind him. He's locked in. And just when you think this cannot get any more intense, the one and only Mr. Beast just casually walks in, smiles, and says, "Welcome to my prison." Yep, the entire thing, the traffic stop, the arrest, the jail, it was all a massive, meticulously staged prank. All right, now let's hit pause and look at the huge legal minefield this thing represents. Forcing someone into a situation where they truly believe they are being arrested and held against their will, well, that isn't just a prank. Legally, it could be seen as unlawful detention, and depending on where you are, it could even escalate to a kidnapping charge. We are talking about incredibly serious felonies here. So how in the world did they pull this off without getting hit by a massive lawsuit or worse? The answer comes down to one golden legal key: consent. See, even though IShowSpeed had no idea about the details of the prank, he had already agreed to be in a Mr. Beast video. That prior agreement, that consent to be part of whatever was coming, is what changes everything from a legal standpoint. Without it, this video would have ended in a courtroom, not on YouTube. Okay, so that's consent. Now let's see how this builds, taking it a step further, from general consent to explicit, prearranged permission. This is where a stunt that looks like a clear-cut crime is completely diffused before it even starts. So YouTuber Arek came up with this plan that was straight out of a heist movie. Seriously, he had himself sealed inside a giant cardboard box. A friend, dressed up as a delivery driver, then tried to get him past security and onto a private property. After this super tense moment with the guards, they actually get waved through. Once he's inside, Arek cuts himself out of the box and starts exploring. Now, from a legal perspective, this is like a checklist of potential crimes. You've got trespassing because he entered private property under false pretenses. You could even argue fraud since they lied to gain access. And at one point, he even grabs some food from inside the building, which technically could be theft. So, how did he get away with it? Well, this is where the sheer power of permission comes in. Behind the scenes, the property owners and the entire security team were in on it from the very beginning. Because they had given their full, explicit permission beforehand, every single potential crime, trespassing, fraud, even the theft was completely neutralized. It was all legal. That one yes just erased any chance of criminal charges. Okay, so we've got consent and we've got permission. But what about those stunts that just look like pure, reckless chaos? This is where the idea of a controlled environment becomes the ultimate legal shield. Just take a look at Kai Cenat's famous firework stunt. When you watch the video, it looks like a textbook case of reckless endangerment. He's setting off a ridiculous amount of fireworks inside his house. But here's the reality. That wasn't his actual room. It was a replica, a controlled set built specifically for this video, surrounded by a professional crew and all sorts of hidden safety measures.
And that distinction is absolutely critical because it completely negates a potential charge of arson. See, arson is about deliberately setting fire to property you don't have the right to destroy, but you can't really be charged with arson for destroying your own property that you literally built for the purpose of destroying. By using that controlled set, the criminal element just vanishes.
So, we've seen how planning ahead with consent and controlled sets can keep things legal. But what happens when these stunts spill out into the real world, where you can't control every little thing? Now we're going to look at cases where the pranks had very real consequences, even if the legal outcomes were, well, surprising.
Yeah, this is where things get really messy. Let's run through a few of these. First up, you had a drive-thru prank in Australia that caused a real business obstruction and financial loss. How'd they avoid charges? They just left before the cops showed up. Simple as that. Then there was a creator who illegally flew a drone over a wildlife area and fled from park rangers. He got away because he crossed into a different legal jurisdiction where the rangers had no power. Then you have the unbelievably risky move of meeting a wanted crime figure in Japan. This could have been aiding a fugitive, but no charges were filed because there was no proof they actually helped him hide. We'll get back to that heavy machinery accident in a second, which led to a civil lawsuit. And finally, wrestling a crocodile. Totally illegal, but trying to prosecute someone for that gets super complicated when you're dealing with international borders. In every single case, some specific technicality was the escape hatch.
Now, that quote about the machinery accident really gets to the heart of a huge legal difference: civil law versus criminal law. You can get hit with a civil lawsuit for negligence, for causing a tragic accident. That can cost you a fortune. But for criminal charges, the bar is so much higher. Prosecutors have to prove you had criminal intent, or that you were so ridiculously negligent it showed you had zero regard for human life. That's what separates a very costly mistake from a prison sentence. So when you step back and look at all of these wild stories, a really clear pattern starts to emerge. There are specific, repeatable reasons why these creators are able to walk away without a criminal record. Think of these as their legal get-out-of-jail-free cards. iShowSpeed's arrest was all good because of consent. Iraq's break-in was legal because of explicit permission. Kai Cenat's arson was just a show in a controlled environment. And all those other cases fell apart because of a lack of provable criminal intent or because of weird jurisdictional issues and legal technicalities.
And let's be crystal clear about this. It is not that these creators didn't cross any lines. They absolutely did. They crossed lines of safety, ethics, and sometimes even civil law. But a single, specific legal detail, whether it was consent or timing or permission or some obscure technicality, that was the one thing that stood between a viral video and a criminal conviction. The line between content and crime is often way, way thinner than any of us realize.
So that brings me to my final question for you. Looking back at all of these stunts, which one do you think truly came the closest to crossing that line for good? Let me know.
For more legal deep dives just like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Lawful Tourist. And as always, just a reminder that this explainer is for educational purposes only.